Bueno, muy buenos días.
Good morning. I hope you had a good night's rest and that you came here with full of energy to take the most advantage of the presentations that you will be listening to today. We will begin with Ms. Blanca Guarneros from Quality Control and Data Collection and Registry. This is the last presentation of Module 2 on data collection and quality control. After that presentation, we will finish our second session of questions and answers. I have 4 people that still have questions for Dr. Palmer from yesterday. It's his 2 presentations. And after that, we will move on to module number 3, data analysis and market information. In this module, we will have a video conference which will be presented by Dr. Enrique Ospina. He is head of the analysis department of the AMS USDA. We will have a market intelligence case by Mr. Aileen Alfaro, and we will also have a webinar which has been developed by the Department of Agriculture of the United States, and this will be on the PACA law. After lunch, we will move on to module number 4, which will be on market information dissemination and relationships with clients, which will be presented by Mr. Benavides Tapia from Chile. We will now begin with Blanca's presentation. Good morning. I am very pleased to be the first presenter this morning because I know that you're wide awake now, and I hope you won't fall asleep. I would like to thank OIMA for the opportunity to share with you Mexico's experience in the area of quality management. Next, please. What is a quality assurance system? It is a set of norms endorsed by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO for his English acronym. These norms allow for the establishment of a model of quality management. This organization is not a governmental organization, so adherence to these norms is strictly voluntary. The organizations that adopt these norms are not obliged to follow these norms. This is a voluntary decision, but adherence to these norms in the markets and for companies and public companies that adopt these norms are a guarantee that this organization will offer standard and high quality services. In Mexico, in the year 2000, the National Market Information and Integration System made 2 major decisions. The first one was that we passed from a market system that was disseminated in the printed media through faxes and telephones, and we used to send messengers to the different organizations and companies with our different news bulletins. We decided to use the internet. This was a very important decision that completely changed the way we used to do things, and it helped broaden our services and offer a larger number of news products. Along with this decision, that same year, we decided to adopt the quality management system for our processes. In October of 2000, we obtained our first certification, the ISO 9002. This is one of the versions. This is from 1994. I must say that this was a very difficult process. It shaped our entire organization because we already had a certain pace as to the way we prepared our reports, and we had to transfer the entire system to the web. And we also had a gigantic workloads to integrate ourselves to the quality management system. We had to start by preparing all the manuals, developing indicators, and this really shaped the entire organization. That version of the standard was a very complex one. It was not very refined. It was oriented to company services. It covered production services, production systems. Even the language that the standard used was for industries. So we had to adapt it to a public and also a public free service. It was hard work, but at the end we were able to obtain the certification, and back then we were able to develop 12 procedures, to document 12 procedures with regards to service provision. ISO 9000 has other rules with musts that we need to comply with. And this is for the specific provision, for the provision of specific services. And others are related to the awarding the norm, the standards, such as writing reports, and so on and so forth. And these go along with the other aspects of service provision. Then in October of 2002, we had to migrate to the new ISO version of the standard. This process was less difficult. We certified our procedures, and instead of certifying 12 procedures, we went down to 6 procedures for service provision. But I will limit my presentation to the procedures that we certified for our service provision. In 2002, we needed to obtain a new certification. And for these 3 certifications, we had to accept audits every 6 months, external audits every 6 months. But in addition to those external audits by the certifying organization, we needed to hold internal audits. And this was good because we have to check ourselves to see how our quality system is working, and we see if there will be any problems with an external audit. And after that, we feel we're in a better position to have an external audit. But having an external audit every 6 months meant for us that we needed to have our own internal audit every 3 months. So we needed to have an internal audit, and 3 months later an external audit, 3 months later and an internal audit, and so on and so forth. So it was 12 audits in a year. Last year, the standard was amended once again, and we obtained the new version of the certification, which is under the standard ISO 9001 in 2008. And we had more experience on how to obtain the certification, and we decided to certify 4 procedures for our service provision. And now this version of the standard is focused on ongoing improvement for client satisfaction. In very simple terms, the methodology of the standard, this methodology has 4 main aspects: to plan, implement, verify, and act. These are general requirements, and they apply to private organizations, companies, and also public institutions and organizations, such as the for the services we provide. We needed to adopt a quality management system, and for that, we needed to start by planning. This is a teamwork. It's a very intense work because it meant that all the members of the organization, all the members within the organization, that is secretaries, surveyors, etc., we had to meet with the entire SNIM group and see what was our purpose and what we needed to do, and we had to write that down and agree on what we were writing down. And we also needed to identify the processes that we needed, the vital processes, critical processes that we needed as an organization. Once we had defined the processes and the objectives, we start the implementation process. We had to document the procedures, and as Luis Fernando told you yesterday, even before ISO, we had to document procedures, but very lightly. And here under ISO, you need to write exactly every single thing that you do and how you do it and how you go about the information systems for groups of products. You need to sit down with the analysts who receives the information, and in the first ISO version, we even wrote down, well, he goes to the desk of Mr. Such and such, and the secretary receives him, and then she will send him to this other office. You needed to write that down, and after you write everything down, you do a general mapping of all the procedures. You need to identify your entries, the center of the process, the centerpiece of the process, and what will be the resulting results. After you're done with the mapping, I would like to show you the ISO mapping. This is in our quality manual. This is the map of the processes. What are our inputs for service provisions? What is the role of the directorate? How we manage our resources to provide the services. I don't know how to use this. Here you go. It wasn't that difficult. So we identify the process. We need to comply with these tasks, which is data analysis, internal audits, non-compliant product control, preventive or corrective actions, and then here we have our output for our clients, what products we're offering them, those clients. Once you have all that defined, you need to verify to see if what you wrote down and how you do things and what sequence you follow, if that is the way you actually do it. So it's like deleting everything and starting from zero, from scratch, step by step. This is a very important part, because sometimes you realize that you can miss a few steps and do things faster. There are also some tasks in the standard that you need to comply with based on what you wrote down. And the standard states that you need to measure yourself at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, at least 3 times for every process. So here, you are making sure that what you wrote down is how you actually do things, and you realize that you made change some of the things to make your processes more effective. And you start by defining performance indicators, and then you're ready to move on to the next phase, which is act. You take actions for ongoing improvement, And you can even change your entire process, or ask yourself if you can merge 3 departments into one to avoid overlap of tasks. Because the staff that you have in one department can look after fruits and vegetables together, because they work in the same production line. So you start simplifying. That is how we went from 12 procedures to 4. And you need to define as a team what is our quality policy, our mission, our vision. And we started at the end. We said as a team, what do we want to achieve? How do we see ourselves in the future? Who are our clients? I think this is a very good exercise. I would recommend that you do it, regardless of whether you're trying to obtain the ISO standard. Some staff may come up with very good ideas, and they may surprise you. For example, if you ask, how do you see your users in the future? Well, I see them with no computers. I use them using a telephone. I see them driving a car. And that is how we defined our vision, and I will read it to you as it is. We see ourselves as promoters and innovators of the market information system. We think that our information is vital for decision making in commercialization and public policy. This is the dream of of the entire team. And for decision making in commercialization and also public policy, this has helped us tremendously, because we looked ourselves as information providers, not only for companies, but also for decision making at the policy level. It was important for them to have the information that we will generate in our office. And we've been working on that, and I will tell you a bit more about this later on. We also want to have cutting-edge technology, but not only because it's just the state-of-the-art or the most in-fashion technology, but to facilitate user access to our services. The processes that were certified. First, we have the certified procedures. We have 3 central procedures. One is quality management, and another one that is resource management, because as you know, you need resources to make any change to the procedures, and also the service provision. This is the backbone of our company. We have certification, information on the wholesale prices and market. You start by data collection up to the processing of market data. Also commercial procedures, from filling out a form and disseminating. This is a very important aspect of the ISO standard. Customer service. We have a specific procedure that goes from receiving information requests from users, their subscription to a service, to servicing the customer and surveying customers to see what they think of the services we provide. This is the operation of our quality system, and it is divided in 12 stages. We have field work and administrative or office work. In the field, we begin by doing the surveys, collecting the data, and sending it to the web. We made verification, and validation. We need to do this every day. And data collection starts by, as with all of you, by applying the methodology. Our surveyors need to know what are the training points, who are the informants. what is the schedule that you need to follow to collect the data, what is the set of basic products, what variables they need to consider depending on the information system, depending if it's agriculture, livestock, fresh produce, and so on and so forth for each of the subsystems that they are surveying. Also, staff training is another requirement of the standard. At least once a year, we need to train our staff in specific topics that they're dealing with. Unfortunately, at the Ministry of Economy, we're using the professional career system, so we need to receive 40 hours of training at least every year to keep the standard for a professional career, and this has helped us tremendously. And this has helped us also for receiving training on databases, Excel, statistics, which help us improve the work we do. So we are training our staff, and every year we try to obtain more resources to deliver trainings like they do in the United States, that is gathering the entire staff to get them to know each other. This is very important, and SNIM coordinators in the northern region should meet their counterparts in the southern region and have some interaction because of the work they do. Sometimes they may need to sit down at negotiation tables, and it would facilitate their work if they knew each other better. Data collection. You begin with the survey. We have a head of quality control, but here I'm referring to the coordinator. He takes a look at the survey and validates it. And the standard requires that I imagine that you need to have some proof or some evidence or logbook. We need to do that too. At the end of the day, it's like a work line where we apply or implement quality control procedures, and we have evidence, proof, and logbooks of everything that we do. The next step would be to capture the data. And we do that in a mask. It's a software that we have for that purpose. We're trying to reduce the number of errors in the data that has been collected. Yesterday, someone was saying that the web will send you a signal that in your data there is an increase of a certain percentage increase, and our system does the same. This is 50%. Is that correct? If it's cilantro, that could be correct, but if it's tomato, then you better watch out. There might be some problem. So you validate the information with that mask. We capture minimum, a maximum, and a usual price. If the minimum price is over the maximum price, the mask will not let you continue. You will hear an alarm signal. We also have product catalogs, and these are flexible catalogs in order to incorporate changes in the market. So we have a catalog that has been revised, and this is for the commercial presentations as for all the variables of the system, and it reduces significantly the number of errors. So you go over the information that was captured, and then after you validate it, you send it to the web. After it's been sent to the web, the staff is responsible to double check that what is in the web is what they actually collected. Sometimes it has happened that a data coming from a certain region in the country appears 4 or 5 times, and you need to corroborate your information. And This is just to make sure that all the information is correct, and you have then your logbook. So you go over a revision process, you take a look at the coverage, the quality of the information, quality especially with regards to the uniformity of the information, to see if it's a standard information. If the information is correct, then we'll leave it as is. If not, we correct it. We validate it. And so then there we have our information on the web. And we also have the quality control, our logbooks. If you cannot measure something, you cannot improve. So all our procedures or our quality control, our logbooks help us measure our procedures. This is an example of the agricultural product system. Here we have all the representations or the regions that need to send information to us at the time when they sent that information, if they actually sent it, the number of errors that were identified by representation, and we do the same for all the information products we have at SNIM. So this is the information that was collected in an entire month. ISO states that we need to have this ready within the first 10 days of each month, and this would become a report of our organization. In this specific case, we see the coverage, the schedule, the number of errors per wholesale center. If there are too many errors, we go back and see what was the cause. If they have new staff, maybe it's because they don't know yet how to do it correctly. We start taking corrective actions. And sometimes we went to the web and he already had the prices for next week, and we found out that this person was going on vacation the following, so what he did was copy the prices for the last week and put them as prices for the following week. So we had to say him goodbye, and he couldn't continue working with us after that. When federal region or representation has too many errors or his delays, the report specialist or a specialist in that area goes to that representation at 6 a.m. and takes the tour, and when the staff arrives, then he checks what he's doing. I have another Word file. I would like to show you. This is a report of evaluation of the quality management system. Here you can see they'll have a code, a date, the number of pages. We monitor these reports. This is from May 12. We need to read this report within the first 10 days of each month. You see the number of visits and consultations to the site. If the number drops significantly, well, this is seasonal. On April, we usually have less number of users. And when we generate another report, the number of users increase, and we can see this. Then we see the responses in that month. In April, we received 3,603 information requests. We take a look at the number of complaints and suggestions and congratulations also. We take a look at the claims. We see what is the nature of those claims and how we responded to those claims. Surveys to clients, the number of surveys that were made, the number of users that answered our survey, what our users think of the services we provide, how they rate us, if their information requirements were satisfied, if we adopted any corrective actions that month. And for each subsystem, we have performance indicators or management indicators. And this is very important under the ISO system because we need to have goals and we need to assign an indicator for each procedure. Here we have the number of errors and the number of records that were revised for each subsystem. We have market comments. This is done for each area. When an auditor, an external auditor comes, the first thing he will do is take a look at this and say, well, you see, here you schedule 4. See if you, let's see your logbook to see if you actually did your 4 visits, and see how many reports you sent to the web. And all the information that we generate, needs to be uploaded to the web. And we tell the user that all working days, we had to put here all working days. From Monday through Friday before 9:30 a.m., you will be receiving all the information on fruits and vegetables from the main markets in the country. And we need to show this to the auditor, the external auditor, and he needs to make sure to verify that all the information is reliable. These are our measurement indicators, the number of requests received, if you were able to satisfy those requests, the number of complaints from our users. These are all indicators to measure the efficiency of our system. And then we also have here performance of our providers, our informants, who arrived on time, who gave us information, who answered our questions. This is very important because we need to follow up on the things that our informants do all across the country. And so at the central offices, we need to keep in contact with everybody to see if they're actually performing their tasks. We need to have evidence of whether all the tasks were accomplished. And we also need to show how we correct our procedures. Here you can see all of this information. Just to comply with our customer service focus, we have to elaborate focus groups, which is also an interesting activity. We work with focus groups for our users, which always use our services, private and public, and also those potential users, which we know aren't using our services, and we like to find out why they're not using our services. We have a web survey, which is something that enriches us, which keeps us up to date and alert. And this survey is used to these users. We also have a survey for our subscribers. Because let's say someone sends an email and says, oh, what's the tomato price on such and such a day, or I need prices for such a product for the entire year. And those types of emails, well, we have that information. We get it from the site, and we respond immediately every time we send information at the end of our email, we have a survey to see what they think about our services. Not everyone answers a survey, but those that do, in this case, they all always mark 10 because you are satisfying their needs. So we don't know if that's true or not. Our web survey is answered by people which is who are usually finding something specifically, and they usually don't find it, but anyway, we'd like to hear their opinions. When we obtain that information from the web, we find situations that are very interesting, that have helped us. It's feedback for us, and it's tremendous aid, especially knowing what our users think about our website. We're not seeing them personally, but we know that they're reading our website. What type of service are we giving them? What do they think of our services? And what suggestions do they have for our improving our services? So this is our raw material, which has been tremendously helpful. I also mentioned this yesterday. It helps us improve and enhance our system. This information, the surveys we have, and the contact with our users, all of this information is reflected in the special reports that we elaborated for sugar and for tortilla. And we also elaborate annual reports for specific agricultural products. This special report on sugar, well, we were used to give information about, or we always gave information about the wholesaler, but the user said that they needed the frequency price, or I need a monthly summary of the price, or a weekly summary of the price. So we said, how do we deal with all these needs? So we're giving an option to the users to pick if they needed what kind of sugar they wanted, what kind of product, what kind of month or term, if they wanted a monthly report. Do you want a website? Do you want a paper format, or do you want an Excel worksheet? Many users ask us for Excel spreadsheets, and we were able to provide that. But now we have an option of exporting different formats, which makes us more flexible. And we also ask our users if they want a cycle or harvest period summary, or a calendar year summary. So there are various options. This is an example of a report, of a monthly report. Sorry, it's a daily report. Here's September 2010, and you see all of the days of the month and the average of the frequent price, or the frequency price. When we upload this on the website, we saw how the number of users increased. It's not reflected immediately. If we didn't have these indicators, if we weren't measuring how many hits we had, or if we didn't register how many changes we did on the web and who and the hits we had on the web, we couldn't measure the impact we had on our site. This is a special report for tortilla that had more impact. The users for sugar grew as a result. Oh, this is tortilla. So what is tortilla? What is tortilla? Okay, tortilla is a staple in Mexico and in Central America in general. It is a tortilla. It's a disc that is prepared based on corn, not on yellow. It's not made with yellow corn. It's made with white corn. In the case of Mexico, we produce tortillas. We are one of the main white corn producer in the world. Yes, we are. And we eat all of the corn. We don't even export our white corn. We just consume it all ourselves. And since it's a staple in our country, we cannot live without tortillas. So when we go somewhere else, we always miss our tortillas. So any variation in the price of this product affects the basic staple products of Mexico. So the price of tortillas, our system doesn't, by regulation, we have to list the wholesale price, but it's what positions us well, because this tortilla report, well, this is what we have on our website, but it's a special report. We have comparatives and variations, which
arrive at our office Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then by Friday we have our price set, and then on Monday the Economic Cabinet of Mexico meets. They review the price report for the National Information Market Integration System for tortillas. So this gives us solidity as an information system, because when everything flows smoothly, everything works. But if there's a delay in reporting, in our reports on Fridays especially, and we don't have the report elaborated by 6 p.m., because sometimes the delays do occur. But we start getting phone calls as to where the prices are. So this gives us feedback that we do need to produce our prices, have our prices ready quickly. So this is the tortilla report. This is an annual summary, which is also a request at the request of our users. Yesterday you mentioned that we had many products that are disaggregate, not, for example, oranges. The Valencia orange isn't available the entire year. But there are users that asked us for a historical or how the trend for oranges were in general, generic oranges. So this is a report for generic products. Generic refers to the commercial presentations. For example, the salad tomato. What's the average of the salad tomato? It's the average of all the different types of salad tomatoes, the different packagings. So we take an average of that. We did this for all of the products. This is also on our website. This is an example. This is a weekly. The other was a monthly report. So benefits. Let me conclude rather quickly. The fact that we're certified by ISO was torturous at first. However, now, according to our latest audits, the quality system in the SLIM is a mature system. It's the staff acknowledges that itself. It's been appropriated, and one of the benefits is that we have documented the entire operation of the SLIM system. And in this manner, we can guarantee that the process is not interrupted. So it can be covered. If one person is missing, another staff person can cover that other person's job. So it's a process that will not be interrupted. The flow of the process will continue without any problems. There's traceability, there's control of the information, there's an audit trail, and this way, if someone says, oh, okay, you made a mistake 3 times on such and such a date, what was a mistake? So we have the audit trail, we can go back, trace back, oh, okay, that was a typo, that was a mistake. So what do? We speak where the evidence is. We can say what happened, what was the mistake, where it happened, who did it, and everything is evidenced. Another important aspect is that we can establish metric parameters for our system. We can see how our systems are working and how the staff is doing their job. It facilitates the identification of areas of opportunity, because we not only know what our users need, many times they tell us how we should instrument it, what would be the best way of resolving a need that they have. It encourages teamwork, and I think that that's very important. I like the fact that I would like all of you to visit our office when we have an audit. Everyone prepares, the secretary, so we have bets. If we make a mistake in the audit, you pay for lunch, so we punish them. So there's a sort of teamwork involved, and everyone defends their department and the job that they do because it's truly appropriated, and they feel as it's their own. So when one fails, everyone else will fail. So it'll reflect poorly. So everyone takes great pride, and nobody wants to be the cause of a failure during the audit. We also are recognized by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. Undoubtedly,
quienes lo reconocen.
SNAME is acknowledged as a system that offers trustworthy information, timely information, and quality information. So this gives us a level of competitiveness that other non-certified organizations lack. So it definitely puts us on a different echelon.
Entre los factores de calidad y
Given the quality factors, but that's very important for us, I think that that's our strength. I think our human capital is our greatest asset. Their commitment, creativity, and experience. Also, it's a public service. We have constant communication with the general public. We try to meet their needs quickly, and that's always something that hasn't been reflected so well with the government. The government is always characterized as bureaucratic, as not listening to the public. But we feel that our organization is different, that we do respond to the public, and that is definitely a plus for us. Just to end, in 2000, we had set an objective for our website. We had 5,000 users by average per month. By 2007, that number went up to 42,000 users. And now, in 2010, we have an average of 100,000 users per month. And each of them have at least an average of 14 hits of 9 hits, per user. Now we have fewer users because the system is less effective. They don't have to click as much to reach the information that they seek. These results are our main indicators. Our users grow, we can see that our system is growing, that it's being used, and it helps us also with our maintaining our ISO standards. Thank you. Blanca, thanks so much for your presentation. I want to congratulate you for this process that you endeavored to do in Mexico to be able to get ISO certified. It's very difficult. We certified in Honduras the service ground analysis and pesticide labs. I saw that certification period, and it was very difficult. We couldn't even visit this group because we couldn't delay them. They were just rushing to get certified and meet all of the requirements, manuals, and all the requirements for certification. And the focus that you all had, that you have in Mexico towards the user is very helpful for us, and that way you can set an example. SNAME sets an example as an information system that's part of the government and that is truly of use, that truly is used by the end user. Let's open the floor for questions. We have 30 minutes for Q&A. Please feel free to ask your questions. Let's begin first with those people who had questions beforehand. Questions for Dr. Palmer, Elias Mejia, Andrea, Sheila, and Santos. Elias. One of the questions I had for Dr. Palmer running his presentation, which I think was excellent, and it definitely gave us a great idea, a lot of knowledge to apply the different systems established by the countries. My question has to do with the type of information that is collected. If you're going to fix a product with a price in El Salvador, we have a survey that considers 5 points or 5 aspects to set a price on the product. However, in the last few months that we've been undergoing an adjustment to this system to set priorities within the government plan, we've faced a discussion that, let's see, five types of data are collected for defining the price of a product, and we feel that that's very low. Especially when we deal with the quality of that information. So for that product, I understand that after hearing your presentation, Dr. Palmer, yesterday, defining an exact number or an exact price isn't an easy task. It's not a recipe. It's based on many factors. However, given your experience, what do you have to say about that? How would you advise us in El Salvador? What is the maximum price? As a country, for example, we establish different reports for the FAO, for ECLAC, for different global organizations, and we report averages by country of the different products. So if we establish an average price for maize or beans or any other product, we report an average by country. But we've discussed the fact in El Salvador that to what extent the most correct information to consider for this is a trend, if the information is a maximum or minimum price, or if it's a frequency price, or should we just continue working with averages? We have an office in El Salvador that assesses. It's called the Ombudsman's office, and we've discussed about these prices. They deal with averages. However, when we sit at the discussion table and deal with discussion about these prices, when we have many questions as to what is the best or the most feasible method to consider for reducing errors when establishing prices. So what is the true price?
I think I'm going to take all the 30 minutes with just that one question, but I'm going to try to be brief. 5 observations to determine a price. I don't like any number. You just discover the price. You might know with 5, but sometimes you have to do 20. You know, you have a whole sample, like in La Tiendona, people selling onions might be 25. And if you just look at 5 prices, you're probably not going to have a good amount of data to determine what that price is. Now, with your experience, you might know that there are 5 people that generally are falling where the price falls. Then that would be a good idea, but the investigation goes as far as when you feel comfortable that you have had that price. It's an investigation. You cannot say with 3 prices, with 13, with 5. You don't know. You have to talk to the whole population in the market. One person to cover La Tiendona is not enough if you're going to do a really good job. That's why they use 2 or 3 observations, 5. But you have to think in terms of finding out what the market is. It's not, if you take 5 prices, it's just a price taker. You don't know. You might say that it's being sold in the range that those 5 persons gave you, but it doesn't mean that that's the market, because you need to consider volume, you need to consider quality of these 5 things, if they are the same, if they are not. You have to see the wide range of prices that you have within those 5 observations that you took. So my advice for this is to do as total job that you could do to cover as many people that are in the market. Sometimes it might be 5, sometimes it might be 20, sometimes it might be 10. It varies with product, with the day. What if you don't have 5 people selling the product? So what are you going to do? Not report the price because you don't have 5 people? So a number is not a good idea to have. I know it takes a long time and it takes a few years to get into this mode of knowing what's happening in the market and so, but you have to start somehow, and it's very difficult at the beginning. It might take you a longer time, but with the continually going to the market, visiting these people and knowing what's happening in the market, understanding it, it becomes easier to determine or discover the price, which is price discovery, what you're doing. You're not taking prices. That's one. The second one, as to the most frequent price or the mode or averages, I don't like averages because averages are averages and they don't tell you anything. It could be a good average, it could be a bad average. It's not good. And the frequent price is good in the sense that almost every time the most frequent price is the mode. And if you really do your investigation, as I indicated, that the mostly should be about 51% of the volume sold or more, then you have really few chances of being mistaken. The other thing with that is that the range is even smaller, and if you apply averages with the mostly, you are really giving a more detailed piece of information or price. The minimum and maximum is a wider range. So with the mostly it's a smaller range, which could be the mode or the most frequent price. Generally is both of them. And the mostly also could be a range. So that will be my answer to you. As to that, I don't know if that helps or gives you any guidance.
Andrea, por favor.
More than a question, I just wanted to comment. I truly admire how you are able to get to the people that give you the information, because for us, it's extremely difficult in Argentina, and this is one of the issues that we have to face and address, especially in the rural areas of the country, where when we arrive and we say that we're from the Ministry of Agriculture, people are just terrified, and the windows close, basically. They're just petrified. So we're not seen as in a positive light. So I don't know, I'm very jealous of you in the United States, the access you have to your informants. And we were thinking about establishing a national law, as we do for Buenos Aires. We turned it into a national interest market. And in that way, people are obligated to give us information. The internal market reporters have a right to the data. But you said in your presentation that the sellers, as the reporters, shouldn't feel obligated, that they should do it in good faith and be able to have more of a friendship with their informants. And for us, it's very difficult, though, in our country to have that, to do that. I don't know if you have any response to that could maybe help improve our situation in Argentina. Thank you.
The information system at USDA has about 98 years. And Victor Hugo mentioned today, oh, he's not here. Victor Hugo mentioned yesterday that there is a culture of sharing and giving and wanting information. They understand throughout all these years how important is the information. The information is good. They make really good, great decisions with it. They can trust it. And we are there every day for 98 years. So it's already, we have series of information dating to 1917. The first report is in my boss's office. The first report in paper. So we do have a lot of information. We do have a lot of expertise. A lot of the produce business, it goes from from father to son, and it keeps staying in the family, and they teach this too. We adapt a lot to the changes in technology, in products that they need. We change with them. We visit them all the time. If you look at our portal, the portal was developed with probably 99% of the input from the users, from the industry. It's not me sitting at USDA thinking what they need. No, it's they telling us what they need, and we adapt to that. So that culture and that explaining the importance of the information that they're giving, the confidentiality and some other things that you have done through years, doing it every day at a high level, very good level, trustworthy level, creates this culture of giving information. And not just that, you give value to them. When they see something of value, then they will cooperate. They understand what the process is for. And my advice to every place I go is that it's a process. It's not going to be changed from today to tomorrow, but you have to start it. Mexico started it in the early 90s or so, and they created a great product. Chile is another example, Colombia. They have been really consistent, and little by little, they're creating also this culture of need of information, this culture of trusting the information, and that's how they cooperate. You just have to teach them and tell them what it is for. So once they know that, then the process continues going. Blanca mentioned just a while ago. It can never stop now. But if you stop, they won't rely on your information because it's not there when they need it. We adapted now in a sense that we give them information, or they have access to our information 24 hours a day through the portal, to whatever they want. Every single thing is there. So it's a culture, it's a process, and that will be my best advice for you guys. You know, you just don't go to a place when you need something. If you have a friend and that just comes over when they need help, you get tired of it really quickly and you mistrust them. Say, oh, he just comes and see me, or she just comes and see me when they need something. So why would I be nice to them? But if you see an uncle that comes every time and he brings you something and is really jovial and sharing stuff with you, and so you wait for him and you hope for him to come more often, and you will treat him well when he comes. That's the idea.
Sheila, por favor.
Sheila?
To Mr. Palmer, but after hearing Blanca's presentation, I would like to ask her the question. Can I go on? Okay. We collect data for our statistical division, and we have our subdivisions in the districts, and so they send our data from the field to the head office. And recently, we have started a statistical agricultural info system. Also, but we're at the very early stage of this system. We're also going to use the internet and also a database management information system for the processing, method, and analyze. And we have had a fifth census of agriculture in 2008, and this was the basis for the establishment of this integrated information system on agriculture. Do you think that we can start such a market information system, starting from our statistical information system? Because we only have like farm and market prices of main crops and poultry and livestock, and also fisheries. So we're now at the early stage of this system. It will take us very long to get where you are now. So what do you suggest we do if we want to start such a market information system?
Well, I think that you start with what you have available at the moment, and you establish certain priorities. You define what are the groups of products that you're most interested in, and you make corrections as you make progress, and you improve the way you serve your customers. You need to determine who will be your target group, who will be using the information generated by you, and who else might be interested in that information, and how I should generate that information to be of use for your potential customers. During this stage, maybe the government might be your initial target group. And that information may be used by other customers, and if you define your group now, then you can make great progress. I think you should begin right away.
We have our yearly publication. It will also be for public use, not only for the government. Okay, thank you.
Bien,
Fernando, with regards to your comments yesterday, do you have any experience when the data collection fails, everything else fails? So you have an expense, you need to find a methodology, train the surveyors, the reporters, and yesterday you spoke about humbleness, and you shared your experience with us. I would like to have your comments on this regard. Also, I don't know if my colleagues here are going to have the same situation in your countries. In our wholesale market in Lima, this is a market that was created in 1947, and we had about 770 wholesalers, and they are still there today. So a few have passed away, but their business was inherited by their sons, and the sons did not want to work on that anymore, so they rent the business, so they do not participate directly on the business. If you want to talk about dollar figures, the owner pays around $30 per month to the municipality, and their sons rented for about $1,500 per month. So here there are two big losers, consumers and producers. This year, we have great expectation around the world with regards to commodities. And this has a direct effect on basic commodities. Potatoes is not a basic commodity, but it is also affected by this. The price of potatoes is going up currently in our country. My question is, who should we survey? The true wholesaler, which in my country would be around 200, or the ones that are buying from that wholesaler? Do you have the same situation in other countries? This should be reflected in the methodology, I believe, now that we are trying to restructure the system, the information system. Thank you.
First, about data collection and the training and so on. Yes, I have ample experience. I have seen many systems. I have been to many countries teaching this. And it is very expensive. We have many, many years working on this, and it has to be done. If you don't get the data correctly, nothing else is going to be worth anything. We have to strive to get the correct price. That's all. Yesterday I was talking about asking prices, and probably people don't know what are asking prices. A lot of us went to Mexico about a year and a half ago and so, and in every place we visited, on top of each commodity there was a price. That's an asking price. That will be the highest price that they could offer. But that's not the market. It's just showing there. For example, I'm just going to give you an example. If it was me and I shop there, I will go and say, I will ask him what the price is, and if he says the tomatoes are $200 pesos a box, and I will say to him, not if those boxes that I'm going to buy are going to be in my car. I come here every day and all that stuff, so you have to give me a better price. So he might say to me, well, I sell it to you 190. That's the price that you should take into consideration, not the 200 that you saw there. So all of those are asking prices, and it doesn't tell you anything because it's not being sold. Yeah, one or two fool guys might buy it at that price, but I probably wouldn't. And it would be the highest price that you could see that commodity at also, because nobody's going to pay more than the asking price. And if it does, it's pretty stupid. So the process of training and so I love when I do reporter to reporter training, because we go into very specific situations as the one I just told you now, and you kind of dig into their minds, what they're doing, how they do it, correct them a little bit, learn a little bit, and so training is very expensive, is very difficult, is continuous, you learn every day. 20-some years after the fact, I go to the market and I learn something. I love going to the market. I love the smells, the coolness of the coolers, and the products, the colors, and all of that. I love it. It's something that I love. I'm fascinated with that. That's why I could be a market reporter. Others don't see what I see. So training is very important. Now, who should you investigate? Generally or not, always you should investigate the first receivers in a wholesale market. Those who buy from others, they're not giving you the real price, because they are going to increase the real price of the product that you are investigating. Those are second receivers. They need to make a profit. So the first persons that receive the product coming into the market, the potatoes, and so those are the ones that you should investigate. The second one, you can investigate them too, but you investigate them in the sense that you ask them what they paid for the product, and that's comparable to the first receivers, what they sold them. So it's similar to that. And yes, not every generation of people want to go be in the market, and it changes quite a bit. But the first receiver is the one that you should focus your attention on.
Bueno, debido a que tenemos el compromiso,
Well, since we have a commitment with Dr. Ospina at 9:45 for his video conference, we have time for one more question, and this should be answered within 5 minutes. I know that there are other people with questions, so we will postpone this for the end of the day. So please write down your questions, and you can make them later on. So, Bernabe, the last question. I wanted to ask Blanca about a very specific question and then a more general question. First, about your web survey. How do you do that survey? Do you upload it to on the web every so often, or is it there permanently? And how many responses do you get? Because we do have a web survey and nobody answers it. And then a more general question about the audits. Isn't it very cumbersome to have so many audits? Because that's a terrible process. We already went through a certifying process, and it's exhausting for the team. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and what are the results you've had? You are correct. The web survey, where we change it once or twice a year. We change the answers to get new information. I don't have the information as to the percentage of surveys that are responded on the web compared to the number of users. But I will think about doing that. It's an interesting question. But there's a lot of fluctuation. 1 month we may receive 20 or 26. Last month we had 26. But other months we have 300, 400 responses. And it all depends on the changes we make to the website. Sometimes if we change the order of the information products we offer on the main page, then people will answer immediately. And also, when people are, when there's not many activities going on the web, then you receive very few responses. And with regards to the other question, the audits, I think I didn't finish that topic during my presentation. I told you that we have an external audit every 6 months. So that meant that every 3 months we needed to perform an internal audit, and that was very cumbersome. At the beginning, it is a lot of work, and there's a lot of pressure on everybody. Everybody's thinking about what the auditor will be asking, if we might lose the certification, because it depends on on the type of failure that you make. You might even lose your certification, and nobody wants to be at fault for losing the certification for the entire organization. So there's a lot of pressure. But it helped us a lot because people are highly trained, and now they face the audits with less pressure. They feel more calm now during the audits because they know how to deal with them. They know that they only need to respond everything that is related to their specific work area. And during the last audit, we requested that the certifying organization that they will grant us a certification, not every 6 months, but every year, once a year only. Last month, we recertified under the same version. So we need to have an external audit once a year only. So now there's less pressure because we only have 2 audits a year, one internal and one external. Well, now we will begin with the presentation by Dr. Ospina on market analysis of market information and report generation. Buenos.
Enrique Ospina. I'm the Chief Economist for the Fruit and Vegetable Programs of the Agricultural Marketing Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Thank you very much for inviting me to spend these next few minutes with you. I believe the work you're doing is extraordinary. I can remember my experience as a MIS worker back in the Ministry of Agriculture of Colombia in the early 80s. We were working on the grant from the FAO, but we were very lonesome. There were very little other nations participating in this type of work. So I think this group is doing really a good movement towards the future. I am going to divide my presentation in 2 parts. In the first part, I will review some general concepts. They are probably known to all of you, but they're important because they build up to the second part of my presentation, where I will be discussing the work and will do. And this is as basic as it can be presented, but what I like of this is that it is very basic to what we do. It is the work we do is exactly based on these principles. Let me review first what data means to us. Data refer to a qualitative or quantitative attribute of a variable. They represent the lowest level of abstraction from which knowledge are derived. And of course, raw unprocessed data refers to a collection of numbers, characters, and images, and other attributes of that nature. You just discussed in the first 2 parts of this conference data collection and the way to set the systems going. So it's very appropriate that we move now, based on that, into the next move, which is the preparation of reports. Next slide, please. Okay. As you well know, data alone really does not provide a very useful insight. A bunch of figures, a bunch of tables, a bunch of graphs don't say much. Data needs to be analyzed in order to prepare reports, because reports interpret the data into facts, and that's a fact we have to deal with. Next, please. Now, we all agree that the usefulness of the data depends very much on the user. There is a catch here. The user is not you. You're the interpreter. You're the one who is going to prepare the report. I mean, our job is to take that and make it reasonable. So, who is our audience? And that's a very important point to consider. Who is the one who is going to be interested in what we prepare? Who is the one who is going to benefit? And of course, what that audience wants, what that audience needs, is very important. In the case of your work, I would assume, like I was when I worked at the Ministry of Agriculture, and probably the first beneficiary of my work, or the first audience I had, was the Minister of Agriculture himself, or his lieutenants, the Deputy Minister, the Vice Minister, the Secretary General. And in many cases, they needed this analysis for a particular meeting or they did this analysis for a particular intervention or speech or something like that. I remember preparing speeches in which, we had to spend hours, making sure that we understood the facts before we could write anything. Next, please. The analysis of data is a process of, first of all, inspecting what we have there. What is exactly what, is being presented to us. And then there is a process of cleaning, because there is a lot of what the statisticians call noise. So we need to really clean out whatever might just get on the way of a clear analysis. And of course, we need to transform sometimes the raw variables that are obtained from the data collection or that we obtain directly from the ministry or from the database are not useful. So we need to give an example, consumption of potatoes, and you need to know consumption per capita. So you need to divide the amount consumed by the number of the population. And of course, the next move is to move into modeling. And modeling, as we're going to see, is a very ample work. It's not the scary work of the statistician or the econometrician. It's a very, everything we do is really a process of modeling. Next. The goals of that analysis include, and basically these principles can be shifted around and can be amplified, but basically there are three basic goals. One is highlighting the useful information of a bunch of data. There's just a particular group that will be the most useful for what we need to work. Of course, we need to suggest conclusions, and this I want to emphasize in this work, suggest conclusions. That's very important. And of course, the ultimate goal of that analysis is to support decision making, where is decision making for the public officer who has to make a policy call, or is the decision making of the businessman that wants to decide to open a new business, to expand the current business. It is basically where we're going with that data analysis. Next. Now, the data analysis, we can, spend hours defining what is exactly data analysis. But what we can agree is that there are multiple facets to that aspect of analysis. Just a simple observation of a group that could be considered data analysis. Just a general observation of all the data we have present, or of all the parts of the data. And of course, there are multiple approaches. There are probably as many approaches as analysts. Each of us begin doing the analysis in a different way. Some people like to look at the whole thing. Some people like to look at particular parts of it. So the approaches are very many. The same goes for the techniques. There are many techniques to analyze the same group of data. And in many cases, the technique is very important, because it will, in many ways, will influence what the result is going to be. And of course, in these techniques of data analysis, there are very different names. It depends if you're doing business analysis, for example, if you're analyzing the potential of opening a new supermarket in a new part of town, or if you're talking about hard science, for example, the impact of using a drug on a given illness or disease, or if you're talking about the social science analysis, for example, the different eating habits of different strata of the population, you will use different names for the same analysis, but basically it's part of the same thing. Now, the term data analysis is used as a synonym for data modeling, so we're going to see that term going back and forth in the literature, and it's very proper to do so. Next. Now, there are two really big forms of doing data analysis, or two different types of data analysis. One is descriptive data analysis, and as the name says, is to describe qualitatively, or in a numerical way, the main features of a collection of data. There can also be some qualitative description, but that's basically the analysis that most commonly done in any kind of report. Now, what is interesting with the descriptive is that it's probably the most important of all, and is very different than, distinguished from inferential or inductive analysis. The inferential or inductive analysis simply is looking for analyzing statistic characteristics of the population, and will enter into defining measures, the mean, the mode, the frequency, and so on, and we're moving on to come with a conclusion. In the descriptive statistic analysis, we simply want to summarize that data set we have in front of us and make it useful, make it readable, make it understandable. Next. And really what makes the inferential analysis, statistical inferential analysis, different than descriptive analysis is the use of probability theory. But what we have to have in mind and not get too sidetracked with inferential analysis is that even in that case, the part of the analysis that is usually the most important for understanding what's going on is the descriptive analysis. Is also presented, usually presented together. Next. Okay, as management information system managers, there are two aspects of data that we are very interested in. One is the data delivery, and we spend a different amount of time on how we're going to present that data to the public. I heard part of the last discussion, and there were some of that going on, the discussion going on among yourselves. One of the areas where the most amount of progress has been done in analysis and access to information is the way the data is delivered. I can remember in my years as a student at Texas A&M University, where all we had access was to enormous tables of information where we had to copy one by one and then translate each one of those figures into a card that had to be typed, and that card was perforated, and then we had to put that card into a reader, and in that way we could transform and use the information that was being presented. Well, I guess that is big memory of the past. Today we have all kinds of deliveries, even from websites or directly to our. I can see it on my desk and simply enter into the website of the U.S. Department of Commerce and retrieve the information that I need. Or I can go to one of my colleague agencies and tell them I need this list of information for in the next half an hour, and before I need it, it's being transformed in presented in my computer. I can be ready to make analysis of it. Obviously, for that data to be delivered, data management has to turn the raw data into business information, and I want to push a little bit more into business information because that will be the topic of the next your next two conferences, and so I like to do a little bit of prepping. Next. Business intelligence, and you're going to discuss that in the next two lectures. Refer to computer-based techniques used in identifying, extracting, and analyzing business data. Business data has become a very important part of any kind of analysis. When I mean business, it doesn't mean that it's only for business. I mean, the government uses business data all the time, and it's based on different. It depends on the different characteristics now. Business intelligence covers data analysis and relies heavily on aggregation. From the very simple information that's being collected that you discussed earlier today, that data is analyzed, transformed, and moved into different form and presented in a collection of business data. For curiosity, if you could imagine the amount of information and the amount of transformation, the amount of aggregation that goes into for example, a feasibility study for opening a supermarket in a new part of town, and I was giving the example a while ago. And that business intelligence has become very much the basis of all that analysis. It does occur very much also in analysis of public policy, for example, or also in analysis of the impact of a given tax or a given government action taken on the sector and overall economy. Next. Now, we're talking about descriptive statistics, and of course the statistical applications for data analysis are very clear. Now, there are two further steps in statistical analysis that are very important, that we can take our data and the use of our data step further. One is called exploratory data analysis, and that's to take the same base of information and try to discover new things. Okay, I have gone through this set of data. I have analyzed this particular table. I have gone through this, but very likely I have missed something, or very likely I have not squeezed all the information and all the analysis I can get from there. So I go further steps with the same data and try to discover new features, or trying to look at it in a different way. The same data can be used for what is called confirmatory data analysis, and that's to confirm or to test a hypothesis. What is the impact, or what do I expect of an increase in the price of fruits in a consumption? What would it happen if the price of bananas goes up, and how would affect that the consumption of other fruits, or how would that affect my overall spending? Next. One further and probably final step I want to discuss has to do with prediction and forecasting. The use of the analysis of what is happening, the reporting of what we think it occurred or is occurring is very important, but we're usually looking for what's going to happen in the future. And predictive data analysis focuses exactly on applying these statistical or structural models or whatever we use just to predict or to forecast what is going to happen. Now, based on what happened with consumption the last year, what do I expect is going to happen in the future? Or the same goes true for production. Of course, there's a tremendous interaction of variables. And I will talk a little bit more about this in a few steps down, because it's important to keep a clear attitude of what the prediction might do. Now, something that is becoming very fashionable and is becoming the focus also of a lot of consulting firms, is what is becoming known as data mining. And data mining is defined as a particular technique that focuses on modeling and on discovery of knowledge, but only with the effect of looking into the future. They don't analyze the present. They want to see what is going to happen to the future. And this morning, as I was reading the newspaper, there was an interesting report from the U.S. Congressional Budget Office regarding the deficit, the current deficit and the budget, the fiscal deficit, that is affecting us so much. And they were coming out to the conclusion that if we continue at the rate we're going, increasing the deficit, the rate we're going, by the year 2025, with no change in any of the other variables and no changing in government expenditures or in taxes, the deficit will be as big as the size of the budget. That is a clear example of data mining. It's just take a trend or a series of trends and project into the future with everything constant and come out to that conclusion. Fortunately, the analysis exists because they really help to take measures, and right now politically we're in a crucial stage, and I think the Director General of IICA is here in Washington to do some lobbying on behalf of the institution, and that's because this deficit is really taking over our lives. And Dr. Terry Long talked to you yesterday, and Dr. Palmer, who is there with you, can attest to how much it's affecting us, and we're just one single agency of a very large government entity. Next. Okay, this is my last delving into what I see as definitions before I move into explaining and spending some time and sharing with you what we do. And this has to do with general analysis techniques. And this probably has different names, and you probably have seen the same thing with different names, but they're basically 7 different techniques. First one is sorting. You get a bunch of data and you want to arrange it. You may want to go from the smallest number of the variables to the largest. Suppose you're talking about the number of farms dedicated to production of bananas in the certain area of Costa Rica, for example. You want to see from the smallest size farm to the largest size farm, and that arranges into some meaningful thing rather than just an amorphous list of data. Pivoting rows and columns, that is just combining, making rows, making columns to see what can you see, what are you trying to discover from all that series of information you have, and of course what is called drilling into and out of levels of detail. That is, you're trying to abstract in and out of different levels of detail. You want to see the smallest possible manifestation of the variable, one farm with one single production, or the total number of farms producing so much. You also want to, add calculations to the data. You want to make different figures, come to different figures, number of workers per farm, or total number of workers in the region. And so you add calculations, you add, supply, multiply, and come with different forms of looking at the same data. You want to total, you want to see how much is produced in the state, how much is produced in the region, how much is consumed of that commodity in that city, and so on and so forth. And of course, percentages are our favorites. We love to live on percentages. Costa Rica is the first exporter of bananas to the U.S., and Brazil is the largest producer of coffee in the world, and so on and so forth. We love to live on percentages. Of course, our politicians also like that type of statistic. They give some meaningful word to the statistics. And probably the last of the techniques, but probably one of the most important, and one I recommend the most, is graphing. It's amazing what happens when you take a collection of variables and you put them into the graph. It's amazing when you see what begins to emerge. You can graph them, one variable against the other, one variable against time, one variable against country, and so on and so forth. And it's extraordinary what begins to emerge from doing that particular graph. And there are many graphing techniques, and with today's computer programs, you do your arrangement of the data, and you can have 5, 6 different graphics in less than a minute of the same type of information, that will really illustrate and give you a lot of it will help you discover a lot of interesting things about that sort of information. Okay, up to here, I have gone into a lot of general principles, and by no means exhaustive, because we will stay here all day on that. I guess it's a subject of a full semester class on this, but just a series of general principles that are useful to put that data that you collected, that you discussed the collection earlier this morning, and put into some meaningful, useful report that can be used by whoever your audience is. Next. As I said, at the beginning of my talk, I'm chief economist of the fruit and vegetable programs of the Agriculture Marketing Service of the USDA. The economic analysis branch consists of this program, because every program has a group dedicated to analyze data. The livestock has a group, the poultry has a group, the dairy has a group. Ours is one of the largest because the number of crops involved, and I'll delve into that in a few minutes. So there are 8 of us dedicated full-time to provide economic advice to our supervisors for decision-making. And when I say our supervisors, I'm talking about the Secretary of Agriculture, but I'm also talking about the head of the agency, or I'm also talking about the Deputy Administrator of the Fruit and Vegetable Programs. And there are a tremendous amount of opportunities they need to know, and their lives are very busy, and they need that we understand exactly what is going on, and we pass it on to them in very simple, clear, concise, and precise way. So In general terms, we need to keep abreast of current crop conditions, harvesting and prices. We're talking probably about 120 different crops that we look on one way or another at all the time. And of course, we have divided among ourselves who specializes in what, because that tends to be more useful. Although we all need to know about everything and we all usually read about everything, we really need each one of us to take a group of crops and we learn about it more. And we're talking anywhere from apples to cherries to celery and lettuce to oranges to bananas, believe it or not. And I'll tell you in a minute why. We need to keep track of consumer demand conditions, and that means we need to look at prices, what is doing, what seems to be the case, what is moving where, from where. This is a very big country, and the lion's share of the production of fruits and vegetables is done in California, and the greatest part of the population lives in the east, so those goods have to move tremendous distance to get to the main consumption centers. So there's a lot of people in the West Coast as well, and they also have to move in. The state of California alone is a large, very large country. But it's interesting that now we can eat cherries from California or from Chile with the same ease. We can consume anything from one end of the world to the other end of the world with relatively ease, and we need to know what's going on with that. So that's why we need to keep an eye on international trade and international markets. Very interested what is happening with fruit in Spain, because a tremendous amount of citrus comes to this country. You will be curious to know, I'm talking about percentages, I'm talking about data. You'll be very curious to know that the United States imports about 60% of the fruits, vegetables, and specialty crops that it consumes. That's not because it doesn't have the capacity to produce, that's because there is a tremendous appetite in this country to consume fresh all year round. And the geographical situation does not allow to produce tomatoes all year round. For example, here in the States, there is a winter, it gets curtailed or gets moved to very selective parts where it can be. So the integration of markets with Mexico and with Central America, and now Chile, which is becoming one of the largest suppliers of the U.S., Argentina, we're talking about South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. It's amazing what the international markets are doing. And that's what I say. If something happened to the banana crop in Costa Rica, the largest banana supplier to the U.S., it will affect markets in the U.S., the consumers in the U.S. And why? You'll be also interested to know that banana is the fruit most highly consumed here in the U.S. Apples take a second, but banana, not even being a native, is not one single banana is produced in the U.S. I guess there are a few banana trees in Hawaii, but they don't produce any fruit. All of it is imported. So you see why our interest in the international markets is very important. We need to keep informed of what is happening, the overall development of the national economy. So we read briefs from the Federal Reserve System. We need briefs from Treasury and from all the international institutions to see what's going on both in the economy here and the economy abroad. These last 2 years, the economic conditions in this country have affected very much the consumption and affected very much the consumption of a lot of products here. But interesting enough, for example, almonds is one of the crops that has grown the fastest in the last 5 years. Consumption here has grown slower because of the economic conditions, but the demand from abroad has been extraordinary. Europe alone is taking probably 30 to 40% of the increase in almond production that is coming out of this country right now. And the last has to do with conducting continuous analysis on the fruit and vegetable economy. We do that on a daily basis, and we do that on a periodic basis. Next. Now, our analysis, our knowledge, Our capabilities are important to provide support to basically 3 important programs. One is commodity procurement. What do I mean by that? Commodity procurement encompasses a large program of the U.S. government. About $1 billion a year is spent by the government, by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, to purchase food for the nutrition programs. And the nutrition programs have to do with the school nutrition programs, with supplemental nutrition for people with low resources, women, heads of government. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of information. Support the prison population to, they are paying, they need to be fed. So it's a large program. Now, fruits and vegetables has probably the lion's share of that community procurement for very many reasons. One, because there has been a tremendous impulse in this country in the last 10 years to increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables, so some supplementary monies in addition to that money, which is known as Title 32, is being added to that consumption. The last 2 farm bills have provided additional monies to buy more fruits and vegetables to improve the diets of the recipients of that food. Marketing orders, those are programs that are used to manage supply, and there are 37 of them. Research and promotion, that's to promote production of given blueberries, for example, is a clear example of that, thanks to those programs. Mango is a large promotion. Now, mangoes are imported, but a lot of promotion has been going to educate the population, and you'll be interested to know that's one of the fastest fruits consumption in this country at this moment. And all is needed. At lunchtime, you're going to hear about PACA, and we provide a lot of support for that. PACA, and it's a lot of information that needs to be done. Next. Our activities, as I said, are prepare periodic reports. We have to prepare analysis for excess conditions, and that was one of the basic mandates of our agency, is to provide a clear, smooth working to the market. So when there are excess supplies of a given product, we increase our purchases to level off. We also have to prepare reports for special events, weather-related events. Effect of a freeze in Florida, freeze in California, or a hurricane damage in crop areas. We also conduct special projects. We are right now, for example, in a project with Cornell University trying to figure out how to provide more support, more financial support for our exporters to Canada. We export 60% of our agriculture exports go to Canada. With PACA, you understand that there is financial security for the people who export to this country. There's not the same case for our exporters to go to another country, particularly Canada. Next. Now, our source, we are not involved in any type of data collection. Our group is in charge with analyzing, and we're providing reports. But we rely on a large group of data providers. Market News Service, Dr. Palmer, and they long probably have provided the biggest amount of information to us. They have a tremendous amount of information they generate, and very precise daily information on shipments, prices, and so on. And not only we use what data is being put in the websites, we also communicate as needed with the reporters in different parts of the country. We need to know what's going on with pitches in LA, in Los Angeles, for example. We call the reporter there and we tell us, well, so much is being shipped at this point and at these prices. Now, the National Agriculture Statistics Service is probably the largest data collector from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have direct lines with them. We have direct access. The people who work with me enter into the computer programs and they download the data. They have their own accounts. The same goes through with the Economic Research Service, which is the analytical branch of the U.S. for all the major crops. Foreign Agriculture Service for international data, export, import, and again, we have direct access to the tables. U.S. Department of Commerce, census, population census, prices, retail happenings. And of course, we have a tremendous amount of connection with the industry. The industry works with us. The industry comes here to lobby for particular programs or particular support. Also provide us. There's some data, for example, cold storage or inventories of canned peaches or inventories of frozen strawberries. It's not policy information. It's confidential information, but they provide us that information only for our analytical internal reports. And let me clarify here that all the reports that we do are confidential. We're not supposed, I cannot discuss with anybody from the outside, and I get a lot of telephone calls from the industry, and I get a telephone calls from a lot of people. I'm not authorized to discuss any of our findings. And all the reports that I circulate, they're only for internal consumption because we're not, number one, because we use some of these confidential information. Number two, because it is the National Statistics Service, it's the Economic Research Service, or it's FAS, or it's Market News, who are supposed to be data providers. We're not. We're just an analytical group for internal consumption of the department. And finally, in this media is very important. We look for articles, daily articles that are being published in different papers. When there is fraud, for example, it's very important what the local media is saying. We look for analysis of crop failures in Europe, sometimes based on what the media is saying. Next. Okay, we have basically 6 reports that we produce. One is the quarterly situation and outlook. We take the main crops that we deal with, particularly the crops that we are involved in procurement, and analyze them step by step, month by month, to see what's going on, and we put that into a quarter. We're telling them how the crop is coming up, what is coming in, what the prices are, and of course, you know, it's a very complicated situation because although we do buy for the school lunch programs, we do buy fresh. The majority of the commodities that we purchase are in some stage of processing. As you realize, fruits and vegetables are very delicate commodities. They need to be processed, so they're either frozen or canned or dried or something like that. So we need to be, you know, very clear that we are, you know, looking into processed peas, processed carrots, or dry fruit. But we also have to see what the condition of the crop is, because one will influence the other. Now, the commodity purchasing is done on a bi-monthly basis. They do program, commodity procurement group program how they're going to buy. So they need from us a bi-monthly supply availability. So they need to know how many carrots are going to be and where available in the next 2 months, and what the prices might be expected, or whatever the product they are going to buy. You know, the schools, as you know, they usually work from August to June, in one way or another, depending on part of the country. So they need to have those that food ready available for when school is in session. Now, we need to do a seasonal weekly report, that because, you know, strawberries can come all of a sudden, and you know, they will have an excess. So that's what we need to analyze. Excess supplies. We need to follow events, freezes, and so on and so forth. And last but probably the most frequent are the briefing papers for the secretary or for the administrator, because they need to know for a particular meeting. Next. Simply and very quickly, you know, steps to do report preparation: get to know your data, focus on the analysis, particularly who is the audience. The secretary doesn't need to know as much as the overall analysis for commodity procurement. He needs to know a few facts, important facts, where he appears like he understands what is going on, but you know, we have to really extract and put it very clearly. We need categorized information. What is important at this point? Graphs, tables, and prepared narratives that is clear, precise, and crisp. Next. And it has to be, analysis has to be objective, has to be accurate, no biases, has to be consistent, and particularly free of value judgments. You know, I may have a particular tendency as an economist to like one thing or prefer the other, and the same goes true for any of us, but we have to leave alone all those value judgments in the report, say too much or too little, anything. We have to present the facts as they are and interpret them as they are analytically correct, but without leaving all our value judgments outside of it. Next. And last, some tips and practical notes for this type of work. The language must be simple, no technical jargon. One of the things that we as economists have done here is to leave alone the jargon there in the closet or in the shelf, because that doesn't help much. You need to do logical steps so we conduct the audience to what is happening. We pose situation. We preview the future with caveats, and when I was talking about forecasting or predicting, caveats are very important. This will happen if these conditions exist. We need to be very open-minded, not absolute or dogmatic, present the scenarios, and we always should allow for the unexpected to happen. And with that, I conclude my presentation. I again thank you very much, and really appreciate the time to spend with you. I wish we had been able to be down there, but as Dr. Palmer will tell you, only he was authorized to go, and we have to be content with taking advantage of this technology. I really appreciate not only your technicians down there, but up here that have made this presentation possible. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctor Ospina, por su presentación.
Thank you, Dr. Espina, for your presentation and for supporting this workshop. I would like to ask my colleagues if they have any questions for Dr. Espina. Please make your questions now. Raise your sign. Well, Dr. Espina, Ms. Blanca Guanero has the floor. Doctor, thank you very much for your presentation. It was a very productive and clear presentation. I have a question. Are these reports disseminated over the web for free of charge, or do you need to pay them to get them? Thank you.
No, as I said, we cannot distribute these reports outside of the agency or outside of the USDA because they are for internal consumption. Now, having said this, the Economic Research Service will have probably the most ample analysis that you can do, and they are free of charge. All you have to do is just to get into the website. And basically, there are periodic reports. In the case of fruits and vegetables, there is a monthly report, a bi-monthly report on fruits, and a bi-monthly report on vegetables. And they're called Outlook and Situation Report. And all you have to do is just enter in the USDA website and then look for the Economic Research Service, and it will tell you when the report comes in, and you can subscribe yourself free of charge. And they will, by email, inform you when the reports are available. It's enormous the amount of data. Most of the data here is accessible website. The same goes true for the National Agricultural Statistics Service. And Dr. Palmer probably can tell you even more about that because he's more experienced in that than I am.
Doctor Ospina,
Dr. Espina, in many of our information systems, there is a request from authorities from the Ministry of Agriculture to have our systems prepare consolidated reports, including information from other institutions or programs and projects within the ministries or secretariats of agriculture. These reports are called situational reports. My question is, what procedure should we follow? Because you said that data analysis is a procedure that involves inspection, cleaning, and modeling? What strategies should we follow to ensure that the information we collect from third parties, or that is from institutions or other projects, is of good quality and is reliable enough for us to prepare our reports and submit them to our authorities?
That's an excellent question, and one that I worry very much continuously. You take a little bit of a chance, you take a little bit of a risk every time you analyze somebody else's data, because there's no way you can guarantee. I think your best bet is to establish as much relation as you can with whatever groups are providing you the information, so you get to know what they're doing. And then you get to even become familiar with that information, and when something funny comes up, you realize what it is. And I'll give you an example. We review for the Economic Research Service one of the external reviewers, and they send us the reports, the confidential reports, before being published. And it's interesting how many times all of a sudden say, what is this in here? How could this be happening? Well, a glitch went into an error happened in the process, and they are reporting something that is really not happening. So you become very familiar with the data, and you begin to realize how accurate it is, or how really they are not giving you the same thing. But it's a long process. I mean, this has been going on for many years. I have only been here for 6 years, and before that, some of the people have been working at this. This agency has been in operation almost 100 years. So slowly, time will teach you. I have seen the progress in Colombia as well. When I worked there in the 80s, they were very rudimentary. We were trying to put together a system. You can ask the people from CCI today what they're doing. I've seen some of the product, and really, the advance is unbelievable. So time, will be your best teacher as time goes along.
Muchas gracias, doctor.
Thank you, doctor. Any other questions? Well, so thank you, Dr. Ospina, for supporting us with your presentation. That will help us, which will help us give added value to our products.
And, I am here. If I can be of any service, don't hesitate to contact me. I guess we have a direct, email address and so on and so forth, and Dr. Palmer can inform you on that or not. You can give him connections. If I can be of any assistance, I'll be very glad to do it, or any of us. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Now, we invite you to a brief coffee break. 15 minutes. Please be back by 10:45 to continue our session.